Welcome to EdMed Talks. I'm Dr. Adam DeVico, an educator, and I'm riding solo today because I have a special guest, and I'd like to welcome my buddy and just a amazing coach and dad, Chris Rich. Chris, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. Well, do you want to just give a little overview, your background, and what you're up to, what you do?
Yeah, I'm the head men's soccer coach here at UNC Greensboro, just in Greensboro, North Carolina. I've been here about 7 seasons. So that's what I do. Obviously, married to my wife. We're living here in Greensboro, and my son named Keenan. So our roots are here, and certainly excited to lead the program here at UNCG.
Awesome. And for those non-soccer, now soccer fans listening to this right now may know this, but for non-soccer fans, you have created a little bit of a dynasty here at small little UNCG, a Elite Eight or Final Four a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, Elite Eight a few
Elite
years ago,
Eight.
Sweet 16 this year.
Yeah.
My job is to change that narrative as we're not little old UNCG anymore, and
Yeah.
we're a big old UNCG or whatever you want to say. But yeah, we've
Yeah.
done a good job of the last few NCAA tournaments, and every time we make the NCAA tournament, we make a deep run and beat some big name programs. But
Yep.
now we're at the point where we are a big name program, or
Yep.
we're trying to sustain that. So it's certainly been a good ride so far.
It's awesome. Yeah, and as a local guy here, the excitement every season during soccer is just amazing because the program wasn't always like that. So what you've brought to the school and the attention for this program is awesome. So very exciting. But today, really, we want to talk about as a parent because there's a lot of parents listening right now who say, you know what? My kid's an athlete. They're 4 years old and they are dominating that basketball court or that soccer field. And, we all want our kids to be the next professional athlete and stuff. But I wanted to talk to you today about how do you know? Like, how do you really know if your kid might be able to take that next step towards that college level? And correct me if I'm wrong, you played college soccer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, as a college coach, a head soccer coach, what are some things you are looking for as you're recruiting where people reach out to you to say, hey, maybe this kid is ready for college sports?
Yeah, I mean it's always the ongoing question, how do you make it to this level, right? First off, there's varying levels. So like there's absolutely many opportunities at the college level to play in all sports, whether it's Division One, two, three, NAIA, which is another level that's interesting, junior college for different reasons, whether you're under recruited or you don't have the academics. That's also another great level to jump into. So there's so many schools. So
Hmm.
there's so many sport programs all across the country at those varying levels. So opportunity is there. Now to figure out if you are at that level, first off, it takes time. I don't think you know that until late in your high school years. I think, in my opinion, the early years of elementary school, middle school, early on in high school, that's about development from your technical, your tactical, your physical side. You're obviously maturing and growing as a young person, so that's and figuring out your body. Typically, you won't be recruited or evaluated properly until that happens. And
Hmm.
obviously, for in our sport with men or boys, that happens later. So
Hmm.
we're typically trying to make decisions as late as possible. So we're trying to make them as 17-year-olds, 16 at the earliest, but quite often 18, 19-year-olds. And we have the ability to recruit players from all over the world.
Hmm.
So it could be Japan, it could be California, it could be right here in North Carolina. So for me, we're just trying to find players that fit us and can elevate our program and it can help us win games at a high level. To see if what qualities we're looking for. One, we're looking for competitive people, highly competitive individuals that are self-motivated. That's super important because you're going to come here and you're going to have to drive your schedule. You're going to have to manage your academics on your own, manage your workload between your team in athletics and everything else going on. You're not going to have mom and dad to manage that for you. And if you're leading anybody or trying to push anybody to do that, that's probably not the kind of person you want. So we want self-motivated people. We want competitive individuals, and certainly we want talented players. Um, but you really don't figure that out until like, okay, this person's mature enough to handle adversity. This person's mature enough to handle difficult moments. This person has the physical body that would translate to the college level, and that sometimes you got to wait to that. And then certainly you're looking for specific qualities from a technical standpoint, skill oriented. And then of course there's the mental side, right? Like, um, do they have the leadership qualities? Do they have the ability to be a good teammate? Do they carry themselves in at a certain level that we want them representing our program
Mhm.
from a character standpoint? So there's so many components to it, right? But um, as a parent, when you have a son or daughter going through that process, I think you're just trying to put them in situations where they're developing, and they're
Mhm.
growing in their sport and they're able to grow as people. And then as they get older, you're trying to put them in situations where they are getting exposed to colleges, and then hopefully all those things are adding up. Where they're good enough, and of
Yeah.
course everybody has a different lens, right? Everybody has a different viewpoint on what is good enough, right? And of course, sometimes that's different, varying levels, and sometimes that's just up to the respective coach. But I know that was a long-winded answer, but that would be my perspective on that.
Yeah, that's great information. And so for all the parents listening, no, your 4-year-old is not going to be recruited next week. So patience and development and instilling what I really got away from your answer was instilling good habits is vital. So let's say my son, my daughter is in high school and is excelling. And in my mind as parent, I'm saying, you know what, there might be a shot here. Like they might be good enough for that next level. What is some advice for me? You mentioned a minute ago, putting them into situations. What are those situations? What does that look like? I know it varies from sport to sport,
Yeah.
obviously, but especially with technology now as well, what does that look like from a recruiting standpoint these days? How, as a parent, can I put my kid into those situations?
Yeah, it absolutely varies by sport because I know some sports are like swimming, for example, and track and field is all about the numbers,
Right.
right? So it's all about objective data, and that
Yep.
objective data goes a long way. Um,
Yep.
in our sport, it's all subjective. So like
Mhm.
typically the coach has to see you play, how you play, and you see you play multiple times. So when you think about as a parent, how do I get my son or daughter seen
Mhm.
multiple times, right? So being part of it, the right in our sports club, there's certainly good high school environments, but being in a really good club environment that develops you,
Mhm.
um, that has a good reputation for producing good players and producing
Mhm.
good teams, a good team, again, whether a high school or club that plays in good showcase events, like plays in good tournaments throughout the country. If you're doing that, then coaches are coming to those events. And so we recruit all over. I was just in Argentina. I'm going to Ghana next week. In between that, my assistant coach is flying to Orlando
Mhm.
tomorrow. He's going to fly to Toronto next week.
Wow.
We were in Phoenix just before Christmas. We'll go to Frisco, Texas in a little bit. And then, of course, we're all over North Carolina at all times. So it's really being a part of an environment, being part of a team that produces good players, that has good coaches, and that has a positive reputation that attracts college coaches.
Mhm.
And if you're good, the reality is the word's going to get out.
Mhm.
It really will.
Yeah.
Any good college coach will get their fingers on or their pulse on a good player in our state. Like if you're in North Carolina and you're playing in Charlotte, Raleigh, Greensboro, wherever, more than likely I know about you, whether it's through a contact, word of mouth, whatever it had, a coach, whatever it is. But I think just putting yourself in on teams and environments where you do get showcase. And then there's the opportunity to go to camps and
Mhm.
showcases at the school. We have ID camps here at UNCG where We just had one in the winter where we had about 55 kids, mostly
Mhm.
from North Carolina, but really from all over the country and the world, where they came and they wanted to be exposed to our environment. They wanted to visit our school, and they wanted to be seen and evaluated by our staff. So there's that opportunity as well. So, but it's with technology, a lot of players, email is a great tool to continue to reach out, certainly direct it or from the player, not the parent.
Mhm.
Reach out to college coaches. It's always good to have. This is what I'm looking for in a school because there's certainly varying
Mhm.
levels of what makes a school really, really a good fit for that individual, whether it's academic or soccer based or location or area of study, size of the school, many different factors, right? Cost, that's important, surely. So, coming out the list of these are the schools I'm interested in.
Mhm.
I'm reaching out to those schools to make sure they know who I am. They may not respond, but certainly they're reading the emails and trying to be in the best environments possible.
That's great advice. And something you said there really stood out with the player emailing you. Uh, what's been your experience with, and you know my background, I've been in education for a long, long time. And so I have a feeling we see similar trends over the years, but what's been your experience with, I'm sure you've heard the term helicopter parents.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's even the accentuated lawnmower parents. It's the helicopter on steroids.
yeah,
But what's your experience and what's your advice for parents who maybe get a little too involved in their
yeah.
child's development?
Yeah, well, first off, we have a great relationship with our parents here because our relationship is with the player,
Hmm.
and it's with our team, right? So like our relationship with the parents is reality is through our players, like
Hmm.
it's not with them directly. So I have you get to know them a little bit in the recruiting process, but
Yep.
really the only time that I have a relationship with parents is when they come on campus for a visit.
Right.
Um, there's indirect and direct relationships. So, like the way I look at it is when we're evaluating a player to see if they're good enough for our program, and we're going to a game, all their parents are there.
Hmm.
I'm watching the player, but you know who the parents are,
Yeah.
and so you're also trying to look. You're looking down the sideline. What's the demeanor of the parents?
Hmm.
How do they act when John gets fouled?
Hmm.
How do they act when there's a bad referee decision? How do they act when their son's not playing?
Hmm.
Or just because usually like the apple isn't far from
Yeah.
the tree,
Yeah.
right, kind of thing. Not in all cases, but you're certainly trying to characterize what's the home like, what's mom and dad like, and typically some may be very similar, right, or at least raised in that household. So we're evaluating, not only we're evaluating the person and the player as a soccer player, but we're also evaluating kind of home they're coming from. So and don't get me wrong, I've had top players
Hmm.
come from environments where it was a very t broken household or difficult upbringing, or mom and dad wasn't great, and it still worked out. But
Hmm.
more than not, you want kids coming from good environments at home.
Yeah.
So first off, we're evaluating that indirect. We're evaluating and having a relation with the parents indirectly by
Hmm.
watching the players. But then in the recruiting process, really you meet the mom and dad on the visit, and then it ends, and then my
Yep.
relationships with my players,
Yep.
and so for me the relationship with the parents is really good because I keep them. They're separated from our program. They're like, listen,
Yeah.
we're coaching 18 to 25-year-old men,
Hmm.
um, and you have to, the reason why is not only is because you're in an elite, high performing environment where you have to, come up with your own solutions and manage your own time and have difficult conversations, but it's because that's what life is, right? We're trying to
Yep.
we're trying to evolve you as a human beyond this program. So, and certainly mom or dad fixing your problems for you is not going to be the solution. So, listen, this certainly you can't control it all. There's certainly parents that are highly involved with their players' day-to-day routine. And then there's some certain players that do it all on their own. So it's
Yep.
kind of all of the spectrum in that regard. But we're very, I guess we have very good intent and very good purpose in the sense that like our relationships with you,
Yep.
not with you, mom, not with you, dad, and that's how it is. And the moment you come here, Mom and dad, for me and you, it's like you're not in the equation, right? And that's just how it is.
Yeah, I taught undergrad for several years, and I was a freshman advisor, and I would help. I'd be there on move-in day, meet all the parents, shake their hands. I say, I'll see you during move out at the end of the year
Yeah, that's
because
right. That's right.
that's about the extent of
100%.
their, the relationship. But that's a tough pill for some parents, obviously, who have been so involved,
Yeah.
sometimes overly involved for all those years. And obviously, any kid playing for you has been playing at a high, high, high level for so long. And so it is an interesting break for some. And I was an advisor for a number of athletes, and some were more independent than others. And it's always interesting seeing how they develop over the years. But I'm wondering, your perspective on where we are now with youth sports in general. I think it's changed a lot. You and I are about the same age. Like since we grew up,
Mhm.
youth sports has changed a lot. What do you see? And I know you're not directly in youth sports, but you see the outcome and the yielding of youth sports. What's your take on where we are with that right now?
Yeah, probably the biggest thing is we're too specialized now, in my opinion. Like, I think the beauty about when we grew up, there was less structure,
Mhm.
certainly less cost that was involved in youth sports. But just the fact that like the majority of my development as an athlete came from just playing pickup and
Yep.
and playing in the neighborhood, right? And I think I think that is no longer a priority. We go from playing pickup
Mhm.
in multiple sports and you play football, basketball, soccer, baseball, or
Mhm.
you just horse playing, now you're going from like now this structured sport every single day of the week, right? So like at too young of an age. So like my opinion is certainly if you're going to be an elite level soccer player at a certain age, you have to start specializing. What
Mhm.
is that age? In high school, like I'd say around that age, beginning of high school, you may want to start specializing but I think at early stages of human and physical development, in my opinion, I felt like, and I still feel like, you get so many awesome qualities from doing different things and so many different skills from playing all the way from football to soccer to baseball to basketball to individual sports like tennis and golf
Yep.
that challenge you different mentally and certainly challenge you different physically. But I think there should be a huge stock still on pickup,
Mhm.
unstructured, um, I don't know, 20 kids playing in a park or 20 kids playing in a
Yeah.
neighborhood. And I do fear we've gone too structured. In my sport, if you go anywhere in the world, it does not become structured until high school age. Like
Mhm.
really, U14, U15, U16 at that age. Everything
Yeah.
else, there isn't structured sport. It doesn't exist. You play on the streets, you play in the park.
Yeah.
Um, but I think obviously there's a few different challenges in our society that we didn't have. We didn't have the challenge of technology, right? We didn't
Mhm.
I mean literally I don't remember anything but playing outside or being yelled to come back inside or being told I had to come back inside before dark, right?
Yep.
And then we always abused that like before dark or after dark. That was my memory of my childhood. And then I
Yeah.
remember as I got older, I got into more structured soccer, but when I was like 15, 16, 17, I was still playing all sports.
Yep.
And I was playing soccer for 3, 4 months a year, football 3, 4 months a year, basketball 3, 4 months a year. And I was just a more general athlete than maybe a specialized soccer player. So to this point, th that is a challenge, right? I think we have the
Yeah.
challenge of like there's so many different technological, whether it's tablets or just being glued to devices. I think that's a challenge, not only for kids, I think for me too. Like
Yeah. We all are.
I think we all are right. I think that's a
Yeah.
challenge that where we growth in sport. I think that's a challenge, and I think too much structured involvement, and then probably, in my opinion, the biggest hurdle is, golly, youth sport is too big of a billion-dollar industry. In this country, like we're paying too much money to pay. I don't know, and I don't know what it is because my son's not at that age yet. But the fact we're paying thousands of dollars to play a sport And then
Mhm.
you're paying travel, like serious travel in this country with overnight trips, flying, hotels, long weekends. It's like my goal to be at the is not to do any of that. That's not like I just don't have that. Hopefully, I'm in an environment with my son where he could be in an environment where we don't have to do those things on a regular basis. Because that one, I think it monopolizes time and it's way too much money. So I think that's a big hurdle as well. But I think if we get to a point where it's a little bit more cost efficient,
Mhm.
a little bit better for the masses. Because I do think to play elite sport, you got to be in a pretty good situation
Mhm.
financially, and then and just having less structured things and more pickup style scenarios, and probably playing more sport versus
Yeah.
less specialization. That'd be my opinion. That's not a me doing tons of research and educated
Yeah.
decision on that. That's just my gut from the athletes that I work with and my
Mhm.
perspective on my childhood.
Yeah, and I don't think you're alone in that. I think we've all seen that evolution, and I guess to some degree we're all at blame as well because we've developed this into this society.
For
Um,
sure.
But it is where it is. You mentioned money, and I'd be remiss not to get your thoughts on, and I understand it doesn't impact your sport as much, but being in just the collegiate world of NILs and transfer portals nowadays, it's changed college sports. What have you seen, and how has that impacted how you coach or how you recruit or just sports?
Yeah, it does, and it is effect. It is in our world now. Uh,
Yeah,
just not at the $1 million level of football and basketball. But we're doing the same thing. It's just less money.
yeah.
So instead of talking about millions or hundreds of thousands, you're talking about thousands, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's in our world for sure. It's just become transactional.
Mm.
It's big. It's transactional relationships now, and it's not everyone. And it
Mm.
goes both sides. Coaches have become transactional. Players have become
Sure.
transactional. So like there was a time where there was the 4 year or 5 year player, and it was all about development. It was all about relationships, and
Mhm.
that's still going on. It's just not the majority anymore. There's certainly players in my team where I have unbelievable relationships with, and I hope they stay for 5 years. And I've had players stay for 5 years.
Mhm.
Fortunately, we don't have players transfer out of our program
Mhm.
um, as consistent as other programs, but it certainly happens. So
Sure.
now there's a grass is greener mentality in our culture where like for whatever reason, and there could be the right reasons where like you're at UNCG and you're out of state and you're paying $40,000 a year
Mhm.
and you're not playing, and then you could go somewhere else, earn scholarship or get scholarship and play. That
Right.
player should transfer like it, and I'll help that guy.
Right.
But the player that is on a scholarship here, that goes in the transfer portal to get more money or NIL money on top, that's a frustrating process. But we're now, as a coach, and as parents, as players, we all have to adapt to the new norm, right?
Right.
I'm not a complainer. I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, this sucks," and it's become too transactional. It's all about the money. Players are caring too much about what they can earn. Yeah,
Yeah.
that kind of sucks. But I also good for the players and maybe not in soccer, but like the fact that Alabama football and LSU football and all these basketball and football players, they've been making billions and millions off these kids, and they've gotten nothing out of it. And the
Mhm.
moment they graduate, the 1% go to the NFL and NBA, but the rest don't.
Mhm.
So certainly, you know, like all power to you to be able to earn an income while a university makes a lot of money off your performances.
Yeah.
So I actually am in favor
Mhm.
of that. Um, I just hope that we can continue to be about the relationships and be doing it for the right reason. But I'm not gonna be that coach that complains about it. I'm gonna empower my players, continue to do as much as we can at UNCG to support and pay our players or give money on top or
Yeah.
support them best way. Because in the reality is some players need support. They come from
Sure.
backgrounds they have nothing. So
Mhm.
even a scholarship it doesn't do it right. There certainly used to be a point where a full scholarship was everything.
Mhm.
or partial scholarships was everything. But we're moving in a world where that's not the highest currency anymore,
Right.
and we have to adapt.
Yeah.
So I think there's a middle ground where it could be regulated a little bit better, and certainly that's a big challenge in those other sports. But for our sport, it's about empowering our players and making sure we find whatever their worth is and whatever their market value is, and taking care of them the best we can.
That's awesome. And we are in very interesting times right now where I think we're still finding equilibrium in a lot of those spaces. And I'll be interested for one to see how it progresses in the
Yeah,
next,
me too.
decade. Yeah,
Me
yeah,
too.
yeah, for sure. Well, hey, I really appreciate you hopping on with me today. And I think this is going to be such a helpful message for so many of the parents out there that, just don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And hearing about collegiate sports from a college coach of a very accomplished program is, I think, really great. So, hey, thank you. Great to call you a friend, and appreciate you coming on today.
You got it, Adam. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And Jacqueline's not here, but I will end it the way she always does. There's no such thing as the perfect parent, but you can be the perfect parent for your child.